Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I am so excited for this video because I finally get to talk about my experience of giving birth naturally in a hospital setting. I have been sort of putting this video off just because it is so personal and I felt judged, by the healthcare team and everything, but I am putting this out there just in hopes that it can help someone. Whether you want to have a natural birth or not, just know that you can advocate for yourself and that it's okay to ask questions. Given my background in the healthcare field, I felt very comfortable, asking questions and just being knowledgeable, having that prior knowledge of everything that could be, expected or what could happen during labor. And so I just want to talk a little bit about my experience. So as you guys know from the previous video, Andres and I, well, mostly me, I had told Andres that I wanted to have a natural birth when I was really motivated and really inspired by my grandmother, who gave birth to 10 plus children naturally, and my mom gave birth to 3 children naturally, which one of those was 10 plus pounds. And I was just like, I can do this, like I got this, like we can do this. And I don't know, also, I have heard stories of the aftermath of getting an epidural, like later on in life when you're like 40, 50, you get back pain. Or I've also heard from other moms who are 20 years old, 20 plus years old, around there, and they're saying that they already have back pain. Or this other lady, I talked to recently, and she said that also, I guess the first time it didn't work, so they had to redo the epidural, and she just has terrible pain from that. So I wanted to avoid all that if possible. I know I'm not the healthiest person. I struggle with weight and I struggle with a lot of things, but that's something that I really wanted to try and I wanted to pursue. And so from the moment I found out I was pregnant, I invested all my time and all my efforts in researching and just, trying to find out what I could do to help me meet that, that goal of giving birth naturally. So I know, and I was aware at the time also, that sometimes, regardless of how much you plan, regardless of how much effort you put into something, sometimes your body just doesn't cooperate, or just there's something that goes wrong, and honestly it's out of your control. And I knew that if that were the case, I was okay with having an intervention. So I was completely okay as long as it was medically justified. And I think that's what sort of got me in trouble, because you could say. So I also told you guys in the last video that I did a lot of yoga during my pregnancy. I honestly had done Pilates and all sorts of exercises before pregnancy, but yoga really wasn't one of those. I was gifted a yoga ball and a peanut ball, and I started working with those. Did all sorts of exercises with the yoga ball. Peanut ball, I would just use it once in a while when I was laying down. I would put it in between my legs and just hug it, and felt completely comfortable. Felt like my thighs, were expanding, and it really helped, I believe. And I also, as I mentioned in the previous video, ran into Bridget Taylor's channel. So I will link one of her videos down below, so that way if you're interested, you can go ahead and go and take a look at that. She really taught me a lot of breathing techniques and all that, which I'll go into here in a bit. So other than that, what else did I do? Okay, so I also did perineal massages. So I started doing those around week 36. I started doing those, and I was okayed by my doctor. And so I started doing those. I'm not going to go into detail about what it is, but you can look it up. It's just a little massage for your perineum. Definitely helped, I believe, because I only had 1st degree tearing, so not bad at all. And un momento, baby girl just woke up. I'll be back. Let me see, what else? Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So let me, go to the day that, or to the week that I had a Dalia. So I had a Dalia on a Saturday, and my routine like during the week would be Monday I go work at the hospital, and then Tuesday through Friday I would go to the clinic at the dermatology practice. So that week my doctor that I worked with at the dermatology practice, she went on vacation. So I just went in Tuesday and Wednesday to take care of like voicemails and prescriptions and stuff like that. Stuff that I could do, just organize a little bit in the office. And then my manager was like, hey Kim, you can just stay at home Thursday and Friday, don't come in. She's like, there's really not much to do. She was like, just start nesting. Yeah, let me start nesting. So I got all her clothes that were gifted to us, and I'm just so blessed. Like, we have been really blessed because honestly, like, we can afford to buy her clothes, but it's such a blessing when you don't have to make that expense, or whatever expense. Like, if you're blessed in a different way, like, I'm not bragging or anything. I'm just saying I'm really, really thankful and really blessed, and I want to, just, if you're watching this video and you gifted us something, I just really want to thank you for it, and know that you are thanked and you are a blessing to us. We did send out like thank you letters and stuff, but anyway, so moving on, I went ahead and washed all her clothes that Thursday, and just bounced on my ball, just did some stretching and stuff. And then Friday at 4 a.m. I woke up and I was having contractions, and I went to the restroom because I was like, maybe if I go to the restroom, like, I didn't really think they were contractions. Like, I was like, maybe I have to go to the restroom. So I went to the restroom, drank some water, everything. But when I cleaned myself, I saw on my toilet paper some red discharge, and like, this isn't right. And then I saw the blood, and I was like, which wasn't like, oh my gosh, blood everywhere. Like, it was just like a little bit of blood on the toilet paper. And I realized that it was a bloody show. And so I read that, oh, sorry, move the camera again. I read that once you have the bloody show, it's usually like a couple weeks, or not a couple weeks, sorry, 1 week, or, within the next couple days, you're gonna have your baby. I messaged my doctor, and I was like, hey, I just had the bloody show, like this and this is what happened. And she was like, okay, she's like, see you soon. She's like, you're doing great. And I was like, what? Like, see you soon? Like, is she saying I'm gonna have my baby soon? Or does she mean soon because I have an appointment on Monday? So I didn't want to read too much into it. So I was just like, well, let me just, I knew what I had to do. I had to time my contractions and everything. And once the 411 hit, which is the rule that I was following, I know some people follow 511, but I wanted to follow 411 because I wanted to labor as much as I could at home. And so I knew that when that time came, it was time for me to go to the hospital. So I, stayed home and just did what I had to do, which was just get through the contractions and breathe. And so breathing technique that I learned for when you're going through contraction is to breathe in for 6 seconds and then breathe out for 6 seconds. And if you can do 8, do 8. It's really just up to you. That's what felt comfortable for me, was 6 and 6. Sometimes it was 6 and 8. But you just inhale for 6, exhale for 8, or whatever you want to do. And so that's that's the breathing technique that I was using. I know there's like Lamaze breathing, where it's like that, or something like that. Didn't really learn it really well, because honestly, this breathing technique worked for me, the one that I learned from Bridget Taylor. And so I was doing that, and all the stretches on the yoga ball, which she provides also, so I learned that from her as well. And I remember, I woke up Andres, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm having contractions. And he was like, I don't think I should go to work. I think I should stay with you. And I was like, no. I'm really practical like that, you guys. Like, I was like, there's no reason. Like, I'm just going to have these contractions. There's really nothing you can do. Like, just go to work. He was texting me all day. Like, he was like, are you sure you don't want me to come home? And he's so sweet. But I was like, no, honestly, like, just, it's fine. I got this. And he was like, okay, text me if anything goes, if you if your water breaks or anything. And I was like, okay. And so he got home and he immediately like started cleaning the vehicle, and he got the car seat in there. And because you guys, I thought we still had like 2 more weeks. Like I honestly thought we had even more than 2 weeks, because according to my measurements on my anatomy scan at week 20, my doctor said that my cervix was overachieving. She said, your cervix is overachieving, so you're probably going to be like 2 weeks late from your due date. And I was like, what? I was like, okay. I was fine with that. I know some people are like, oh, you're crazy, like, you wanted to go over your due date. But you know, obviously it was my first time having a baby, so I didn't really know what to expect. So I was like, yeah. And also some people were like, you're crazy, you're saying you want a natural birth, but you're gonna be asking for that epidural. And anyway, so moving on. So what's going on? Getting the car seat in there, and I didn't even have my hospital bag because I was just, I don't know, I just thought I had way more time. But he took care of that also. He got my snacks in there and everything. And if y'all want to know exactly what I took to the hospital, which is everything I needed, just go ahead and leave me a comment and I'll make a video about that. So something I'm like a little sad about is that we weren't able to do like matching outfits. I know it's a little dumb or whatever, but I really wanted to do that. So I wanted to have matching outfits with Adalia, and you know, Andres too. I already had it in my cart. I was gonna order them, but I was like, oh, I still have 2 weeks, like I'll order them tomorrow or whatever. And little did I know, did not have 2 weeks. I should have just ordered them when I thought of it. Later, then what did we do? Okay, so then 10 p.m. came around, and you know, still contracting or getting a little stronger. And so I asked Andres to prepare a bath for me. I was like, you know, maybe that can help me relax and help me get through contractions. But I didn't know this at the time, but I was having back labor. So I laid it in the tub, and it was just terrible pain. Like, couldn't stay there for, I think I was just there for like 4 or 5 minutes. Like, honestly, didn't enjoy it. Andres even lit up candles for me and everything. It was just so sweet, but it didn't work out. So I got out and just started doing some stretches on my yoga ball. I told Andres to just go ahead and go to sleep because there was really no reason for him to be up. You know, I just had to get through the contractions, and so I really needed him rested for when, you know, just those extreme painful contractions came. And knocked out immediately, which I envied at the time, because you know, I started getting tired. Like 11 p.m. came along, you know, 12 p.m. or 12 a.m. I went ahead and laid next to him and tried to go to sleep, and I couldn't. Like, these pains were just terrible, and my back was hurting, and I just couldn't lay. So 12:30, I woke him up, and I was like, can we please go to the hospital? I just need to know how far along I am, if at all, like if I'm dilated at all, like just to give myself like a, like, okay, like I've gone this far, I can do it, like, you know, like I sort of needed like to know. And we went ahead and went, which is just like 10 minutes away. So I was crying and stuff, but I think I was crying more of like emotion than pain. I mean, it was painful, but it wasn't like
I'm having contractions.
I mean, it got really painful, so it wasn't that painful at that time.
2 to 4 minutes apart, and they've been consistent for an hour.
Registrar person asked me if I could walk upstairs to the labor and delivery, and I told her of course I can, and she was like, okay. And then the tech came to get me, and he was like, no, you cannot walk up. Like, comparing to later on, like that's how I knew it wasn't that bad, because I could still walk and talk and stuff. And so anyway, so we get over there to the room, and the nurse asks me if I have any, and I told her yes, I wanted to pursue natural birth if everything, you know, went well. And I told her also that I wanted to go back home and labor if, you know, depending on how dilated I was. And she was like, well, just so you know, we do intermittent monitoring in case you just wanted to stay here. You can bring your yoga ball or whatever you have. She's like, you can do everything here. She was like, but if you feel more comfortable laboring at home, definitely we can, you know, let you go home. And I was like, okay. So she checked me, and that's when I found out they could do intermittent monitoring. I didn't know that. So she checked how far dilated I was, and she said I was at a 2, and I was like, oh my gosh, we can do this. And I was just so happy, and I was like, okay, we're doing great. Like, I thought that was amazing. And she was like, yeah. She's like, so what do you want to do? And I was like, I'll just go home. Actions were already at a 411, but I was like, no, like, you know, I'm barely at a 2. Like, I can do this. Like, I'll just stay home longer and labor. And so they got really intense. Sorry. They got really, really intense around 4:30 a.m. And, you know, Andres couldn't really sleep either, but he was, you know, dozing off here and there. And so I told him, like, let's go back. Like, these are too intense. Can't take them. Like, let's just go back. So we went to the hospital, and this time it was a different nurse. She checked me, and she said I was at a 5. And I was like, what? You guys, I was so happy. I was so excited, and I was like, we can do this. Like, we can definitely do this. And she asked if I wanted a natural birth, and I told her yes. And she was like, oh yeah. She's like, yeah, a lot of people come in here saying they want a natural birth. And I was like, okay. There's a monitor on me, and she checks the baby's heart rate and everything. She checks my blood pressure, and then she takes the monitor off, and she says that, yeah, we can go ahead and do intermittent monitoring. But mind you, it was already like 5:15ish or whatnot, so next shift was going to come in at 7. She said that she introduced her to me, and the nurse came back around 8 a.m. and she was like, okay, so let's check you. I don't think you've been checked since you got here around 5. And I was like, yeah, no. And so she checked me, and she was like, okay, you're at an 8. And I was like, what? Like, my body was progressing. My body was doing what it had to do, and I had my yoga ball there, my peanut ball, I had everything, and I was just getting it done. Like, I was just doing all the squats, doing everything, all the positions. I went on the toilet and did a position, because you can do one on the toilet. Like, it's crazy. Like, I was just all over the place. And I'll insert, you know, a couple of pictures or whatnot, but I don't have many, because Andres obviously wasn't like, oh, let me photograph everything. Like, no. I got through the contractions, because I would be like, Andres, and he would like come, like, he would be sitting or whatnot, and he'd like come running, and and I'd like hold on to him, I'd cling to him and like sway and just like get through the contraction. He'd tell me to breathe and all that. And so anyway, got through it. And what's going on? Honestly, I say this and not jokingly at all. Like, if he would not have been there supporting me, and if he would have not been my person, I don't think I would have been able to get through this, because it's really intense, you guys. Like, it really, really, I want to say it sort of like tests you. Like, it's just some next level pain. Like, and mind you, like, I don't have much pain tolerance. So the doctor comes in and introduces herself, because, you know, the nurse shift changes, and so does the on-call doctor changes. So my OBGYN that I had been seeing throughout my whole pregnancy ended up not being there for the birth of my daughter, because she wasn't on call. And I knew that was that was a possibility, but and doctors, so I didn't know like who it was going to be, and I didn't meet all of them, or any of them actually. I think I just met one other doctor, and just once. So like, it was really important for me for them to know and understand and encourage me to have a natural birth. And because that my doctor knew from the get-go that I wanted to have a natural birth, and she supported it, and she was okay with it. But unfortunately, she wasn't there when the time came. So this new doctor, she came in, introduced herself, and she was like, so I read in your file that you want to have a natural birth. And I was like, yes. I was like, you know, I really like that. if everything, you know, goes well, which I think it is because I'm progressing. You know, the nurse just checked me and she said I was an 8, and she was like, she's like, yeah, she's like, yeah, 9 out of 10 come in here and say they want a natural birth, but, and I was like, yeah, I was like, I know. And she's like, so what do you have against the epidural? Or what are you trying to prove? And I was like, nothing. I was like, I feel like I can do this. Like, thousands of women have been doing it for, you know, years and years, and I don't know, I just don't want it. Like, why is that such a big deal? And she asked like how I was going to do it, like what techniques I had learned and where I had learned them from. And I told her I followed this lady on YouTube that's a doula, and I learned most of my stuff from her. And she was like, like, she scoffed like that. And she was like, okay. And she's like, just so you know, I am a midwife, so I know all about this. She's like, or she said she used to be a midwife. And I was like, so you understand me, you know? And but I don't know, I just felt like some type of judgment from her, you know, especially when she scoffed and she was just like, oh, right, YouTube. And I get it, like, it could be a little like laughable that I learned some stuff on YouTube, but I've seen like people build houses of like YouTube tutorials. So is it really that out of this world that I have gotten like certain techniques, you know, for something that women have been doing for years and years, and it's something natural, you know, if everything goes right, you know, if your baby isn't transverse or if your baby isn't, you know, whatever, like, she left the room, and then the nurse came back in and she checked me again, and she's like, by this time it was like 10 a.m. and she checked me and she said, okay, you're at like an 8.5 now. And I was like, what? And she's like, do you want us to break your water? And I told her no. No, I'm progressing and I think my body's gonna do it naturally. And she's like, okay. And she left the room. And then the doctor came back in, and the doctor was like, okay, so the nurse told me you want your water broken, so let's just go ahead and do it. And I was like, no, I didn't say that. I said I believe my body is going to do it, and there's no reason for my water to be broken. I was like, is there? And she was like, no, but the nurse had told me you wanted it broken. So, and I was like, no, but that's not what I want. And so she was like, okay. And then she came back, probably like not even half an hour later, and she was like, what, am I talking too much? Huh? Am I talking too much? And the nurse comes back in, and by this time, you know, they've been doing intermittent monitoring, and she comes in and she's like, okay, like, you just need to stay in bed in labor because this isn't working. And I was like, what do you mean, what isn't working? She's like, the intermittent monitoring is not working, so you just need to stay in bed in labor. And I was like, I can't. I was like, my back is just hurting terribly. Like, she wanted me to just lay there. I had been doing research, and you have to be moving. You have to be doing like all sorts of positions to help your body like bring your baby down. Like, you just have to use gravity to your advantage, and laying there is not using gravity to your advantage. So I told her, like, I was like, no, like, I can't just lay here. Like, my back hurts. Like, it hurts terribly. Like, literally, you guys, like, contractions got worse when I was laying. Like, it just got so intense, and I was just like crying. Like, I couldn't do it. And so I told her, can I like be on the bed, but like on all fours, you know, and use my yoga ball? And she was like, no, like, I need you to just stay still. And I was like, this is, I can't, like, I don't, how is it possible? Like, how come people labor like that? I mean, if you have the epidural, I get it, but I didn't get the epidural, so I could not. And anyway, so I just told her I couldn't, but I told her, okay, I'll stay in bed for as long as you need me to, but this is like really, really painful. And so she put the monitor on me, and by this time, I think it was like already 11, and I knock out, you guys. Like, I laid on my side, and I put the peanut ball. I put the peanut ball in between my legs, and that sort of helped with like the pain and the intensity that was just so bad on my back. It was just so intense on my back. And so I lay there for as long as she needed me to. And as I said, I ended up knocking out, and I woke up like 15 minutes later, and I was like, what the heck? Like, why did I fall asleep? Like, I thought it was unusual because I hadn't read about this. So I thought, you know, like, that's so weird. So I woke up and I was worried, and I was like, okay, I need to get up off this bed and like start like my positions again. And now I know that that was completely normal, and your body gets tired, so it needs a rest. So that was fine. Like, that was fine, you know. And anyways, but then the doctor came back in, and by this time I think it was like 11:30ish, and she's like, okay, let's check you. She's like, no, you're still at an 8. And I was like, how am I at an 8? I was at an 8.5 earlier. I was like, how did it close back up? You know, like, and then she's like, oh, well, each hand is different. Each measurement is different. And I was like, okay. So she said that I wasn't progressing. She's like, that's it. I'm giving you an ultimatum. I'm coming back at 2 p.m. You either get the epidural or the Pitocin or both. And I was like, what? Like, you guys, I just met this lady, like, you know, like, and she said she was a midwife, and she's over here like, you either get this or both, or, you know, like, that's it. That's your ultimatum. And I didn't ask, or what, you know, I wasn't like, or what are you gonna do if I don't? Obviously not, because that's not my personality. But I was like, why though? Like, is there a medical reason of why? And she did not give me a reason. Oh, so sorry, I fast forward a little bit. By this time, my water had already broken. The doctor was like, that's it. That's your ultimatum. Like, you need to either get this or this because you're getting stuck. You haven't progressed. And I'm like, what the heck? And I, you know, part of me sort of believed her. I was like, she is right. Like, I just knocked out for 15 minutes. Like, why haven't I been progressing more? And then she looked at my husband, like, trying to be like, come on, you're the reasonable one here. Like, she needs to get this epidural or the Pitocin. And, you know, she was just, like, directing herself to Andres. And Andres was like, it's whatever Kim wants. He was like, it's whatever Kim wants. And so she left the room, and Andres and I talked about it. And Andres was like, you know, Kim, like, you have been at an 8 for, like, 3 hours. He's like, you know, like, what if she's right? And I was like, I know, and I just knocked out. I was like, why did I, like, knock out for 15 minutes? And he was like, you may be getting tired, just how she said. And I was like, well, okay, like, what do I do? So Andres was like, it's whatever you want to do. He's like, but you're already at an 8, 8.5. He's like, so, he's like, what if you don't get the epidural and you just get the Pitocin? And so I called Debbie, naturally, because she's a nurse, and she's been a nurse for like 30 plus years, and she knows this stuff like the back of her hand. So I call her and I trust her, you know. And so the doctor comes in when I'm talking to Debbie, and the doctor is like, who are you talking to? And I'm like, oh, to my mom, you know, because I call her that. And she was like, well, why isn't she here to support you? And then I was like that, with the judgment in her voice. And I was like, well, because she had to take care of her own mom, you know, and, you know, personal reasons, whatever. And she was like, she's like, is she in the healthcare field? I'm like, oh yeah, she's a nurse. And I think I still had her on the phone. Anyway, and then she's like, oh, but she's not a labor and delivery nurse, right? She's not. And I'm like, no, she's a NICU nurse. She's like, oh. Guys, I'm like, lady, like, what the heck? Like, what is it with these judgmental questions? Like, you know, I know. I'm very perceptive with that stuff. I know when someone's, like, being a little rude. Like, you know, they're not really asking for genuine interest. They're asking because they're trying to judge. I also read that there's a risk of infection after your water breaks, but only, like, if you're reaching the 24 hours. And so I asked the doctor, like, is there a risk of infection? She's like, well, there's always risk of infection. If you're at the hospital, there's always risk of infection. I was like, yes, I get it. But am I at a higher rate for infection, like, than the normal, you know, person in no? And I was like, okay. I was like, well, is there something wrong with my baby? She's like, well, we don't know because you won't stay in bed for us to monitor you. And I was like, I just did. I stayed in bed for as long as you guys needed me to. And she's like, well, that we didn't get a good reading. And I was like, okay, well, I'll do it again. I'll stay in bed for as long as you need me to for you to monitor my baby. I was like, but I'm just telling you, like, it's really difficult for me to labor in bed. You know, I was like, but I'll do it because I don't want the epidural or Pitocin. And she was like, well, okay, I'll get the nurse in here for her to monitor you. And so the nurse came back in, and you could just tell the nurse was like fed up. Like, the nurse wasn't smiling, wasn't talking. She was just like moving things around like all aggressively, and you could just tell by her demeanor that she was like fed up with me or with something else. I don't know what was going on. Maybe something else was going on with her. Maybe it wasn't me, but I think they really just wanted me to like hurry up, have this baby, just do what they said. And I wasn't, because, and I was asking questions, and I wanted medical, you know, justifications as to why they were giving me this ultimatum. Like, I'd never heard of this. So I was like, why are you not supporting me, like, in what I want to do if there's nothing going wrong and my body is progressing? Like, I checked in at 5 a.m. It was noon. I had just been there for 7 hours. Like, what is the big deal? I did not get it. So by this time I had already, you know, she had already monitored the baby and whatnot, and they come back around 2-ish, and the doctor is like, okay, we're gonna check you again. And then the nurse was like, yeah, you know, you're still at an 8.5. And she's like, yeah, you're you know, you're not progressing. And I was like I felt so devastated because I wanted to progress some, at least like to a 9-ish, so that way they would stop pressuring me. And that just gave them more reason to be like, see, you're not progressing, you're not doing what you're supposed to, like, just get the epidural Pitocin. And so I felt so pressured, I just caved in, you guys. Like, I was like, okay, fine, do the Pitocin and don't do the epidural. And she was like, okay. And then she proceeds to tell me that because I'm getting the Pitocin, they have to insert this metal rod, and it goes into my baby's scalp. Like, it swivels into my baby's scalp to check her heart rate. Like, it's standard procedure. And I didn't know this. Probably should have like researched on that. But anyway, so they told me that, and I was like, what? I was like, this rod is going to go in her scalp? Like, she's not even born yet, and she's already feeling pain. Like, just devastated me. I felt so terrible. And you know, the nurse was trying to set the Pitocin at a higher level than what the doctor said, because I pay attention to the stuff because, you know, I'm in the medical field. And anyway, so I told her, no, that's not the level that the doctor said. And she was like, she like looked at me like, can you just mind your own business? And I was like, that's not the level that the doctor said. And in that moment, like, the doctor walked in with the rod and everything that she was going to do. And so the doctor was like, I told the doctor, I was like, doctor, you didn't say that level. You said a lower level. And she was like, yes, no, set it at the lowest level. And the nurse is just like, she's making faces and stuff, you guys. So anyway, so they do that. And then by this time, you know, by the time they got everything ready, like the IV pole and everything, they got everything, you know, inserted. It was already like 3:30ish. So that's the time that the Pitocin started, approximately. And these pains were terrible, like terrible. Half an hour later, I'm just screaming in pain. Like, this is bad. Like, breathing through these contractions was not easy. Like, it was so hard. And you're not supposed to like pin down and like hold your breath through these contractions, because you're actually working against them. So you have to try and breathe through them. And so that was really, really hard for me. And I was telling Andres, like, maybe I should just get the epidural. And Andres was like, Kim, like, I'm sure you're already at a 9. He's like, don't do it. He's like, don't do it. But the reason he was telling me this, you guys, is because I told him, if I ask for an epidural, please tell me that I can do this. I don't need it. Like, tell me, just encourage me, because that's what I'm going to want to hear. I'm not going to want to hear, well, I am going to want to hear, like, yes, let's just get the epidural. But later on, I would have been like, why didn't you tell me I could? You know what I mean? Anyway, so had to be difficult. But anyway, so he encourages me, and he's like, you can do this. Like, you can do this, Kim. I'm here with you. And little did I know, like around 4:40ish, so just about an hour after they started the Pitocin, I feel my baby coming. Like, I feel a gush. Like, I feel whoosh, like my baby is coming. And I get on the bed, you know, in that position that I said. So this is a headboard, and my face is facing that way. My hands are on the headboard. I'm kneeling on the bed, and that's the position that worked for me. I felt her coming, and I just told Andres, like, my baby's coming now. And Andres pressed the call button. The nurse came in, and the nurse is like, so you think you're having this baby now? And I'm like, yes, I feel it. She's coming. And the nurse is like, well, I can't check you while you're in that position. You need to get on your back and lay down. And I'm like, I can't, like, I literally can't move. She's coming now. And the nurse is like, I don't know why I'm making that voice, but I was basically like that, like, I can't. Like, and the nurse is like, well, I can't check you like that. And she throws her gloves in the trash can and she leaves. And I'm just like looking at Andres, like I'm trying to fight against these contractions because for some reason in my head, I was like, I need the doctor here. Like, and anyway, so I was like trying to fight against them, which I really couldn't do because I had the Pitocin, baby was ready, like everything was just, you know, it was just happening. And the doctor walks in and she's like, okay, let me check you. And she checked me in the position I was, and she's like, don't push, Kim, don't push. And I was like, what do you mean don't push? Well, she still had to get her gloves on, her gown on, everything. And my baby was coming, you guys. Like, I couldn't hold back. Anyway, so I'm trying still to fight against them. And then she's already, you know, she's ready in position, and the doctor, and she's like, okay, start pushing now. And I wanted guided pushing. Like, I wanted them to tell me, okay, here comes a contraction, Kim. Go ahead, get ready, push. She's like, well, when do I push? And she's like, you'll know when to push, you know. And I was like, so I just felt the contraction. I just tried to get in tune with my body, felt the contraction, and I would just push. And the breathing technique that I learned for when you're pushing is for you to go like breathe in, like inhale, and then when you're exhaling, make like a noise, like, ooh, but you have to like feel it right here. So you have to really feel it, and that way you're not holding your breath pushing like how they teach you at a hospital. That breathing is more, I guess it's more efficient for you to prevent tearing and everything. Like it's just really, that's what I read, and that's what I learned from Bridget Taylor also. So I was doing that. And the doctor is like, what are you doing? Why are you breathing like that? Don't be breathing like that. Like really aggressive, you guys. She was like, don't be breathing like that. Hold your breath and push. And I'm like, lady, like, why are you? Anyway, so then I'm like, ignored her, and I did what I did it again. And she's like, what did I say? She's like, stop that. Stop breathing like that. She's like, hold your breath and push. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I hold my breath and push, and then she's like, okay, this position isn't working for me. You have to lay down. And I'm like, what in the world? So I lay down, and I get her, turn right back around, get my position of kneeling. I just immediately, Adalia comes out, like bam. And like, and in the moment, obviously, like I did question, and I was like, just trying to ignore her, just trying to focus and do what I had to do. But looking back at it, you know, like I'm just like, why try to micromanage me like that? Like, why? My body was anyway, I just still don't understand it, and I don't think I will, because me as a caregiver also, like, I just don't see the logic in that. She also complained about how my legs were shaking when she was, you know, doing the aftercare, because I had first-degree tearing. They did have to sew a little bit, and I was shaking because of the levels of oxytocin. The pain of, you know, of what she was doing it wasn't really that bad, but I was just shaking uncontrollably. It wasn't like my legs were like flopping like this. Like I was just shaking, and she was complaining, and she said, like, because I didn't get the epidural, I was shaking, and I was in pain, and yada yada. And I was just like, no, like she should know this, like. So I asked Andres, and I was like, Andres, can you please hold my legs? Like, there were 5 nurses there, you guys. Like, there was a nurse for baby, a nurse for me, a nurse that was getting, you know, my my placenta all bagged up and everything. And then there was another nurse. I don't know what she was doing. She was like standing over here. I could see her in the corner of my eye. But anyway, so she could have been like, hey, nurse, can you come and hold her? Like, not like sort of attack me. You know what I mean? Like, this is just, it was just, so it just felt like there could have been other solutions instead of telling me over and over again of like how I didn't get the epidural and I don't know, just unnecessary stuff. And so Andres held my leg, you know, and I was still shaking. And I got to do skin to skin immediately as soon as Adalia came out. Like, I turned right back around. I don't know how I flipped over, you know, with that umbilical cord still there. I just flipped over, held her in my arms, just stuck her right on me because that's something I wanted and I requested. I wanted skin to skin immediately. So they immediately put her on me and I was just over the moon. It still hadn't really hit me. I don't think I was just like, I have a baby, like, you know, and Andres was taking his shirt off because he wanted to do skin to skin. I asked to delay clamping and they did respect that as well. So they delayed clamping for about 4 or 5 minutes and then Andres went ahead and cut the cord and they took baby to get weighed. I delayed also bathing and showering. I didn't want any of that. So nothing, just wrap her up and that's it. Like, I had read that it's something to help them adjust to the environment because everything's so new, and you know, I just wanted to do as much as I could to help her. And so I delayed all that, but so Andres got to do skin to skin and it was just so amazing, so wonderful. When I saw Andres doing skin to skin, that's when I broke down and I was just like, this is like real, you know, like this is my baby, this is our baby, like it was just such an amazing feeling and just so beautiful. And I don't care what anyone said, you know, I didn't care at that moment what anyone said. Like, I had my baby and she was beautiful and we were just so happy and over the moon. And so later, you know, the doctor left and everything. The nurse just stayed behind and she was not talking to me, really not empathetic at all. Yeah, anyway, really big change as to, you know, the next coming nurse. So at 7 p.m. a different nurse comes, you know, because I saved the night. Adalia was born like around 4:45-ish. So the next nurse comes on and she apologizes, you guys. She's like, I heard everything that happened. Like, I want to apologize for what happened to you. And I was like, oh my, like there were people out there talking about how they treated me. Like, there were people that noticed. Like, maybe those other nurses that were there noticed. I don't know. But I was just like, can I tell you what happened? And she was like, of course. So I told her my side of the story and everything. And she told me, you know, I'm really sorry that this happened to you. Next time when you have a baby, do not come here. Go to a birthing center because unfortunately we do not advocate for natural births. And I was just like, that hit me like a ton of bricks, you guys. Like, that really devastated me because me as a healthcare worker, me working at hospitals and everything, just all the experience I've had, I then never expected to hear this about this hospital because it's so prestigious. And that's the main reason I want to have my baby there, because it's really prestigious. And it's just really, it's really hurt, you know, like to hear that, because she basically, like, she reassured me that it wasn't in my head. Like, they were really just pushing it because that's what they're taught. That's what they're told. They have to push the epidural. She told her manager, and the house supervisor came down and talked to me. And so I told her what was going on, and I told her how there was no medical justification for them to be pushing this like that towards me. I told her, you know, like, I feel like obviously, like, plans can change. And I know I said this previously in my video that I struggle with, like, plans changing. But when it came to this, like, I struggle with, like, itineraries. Like, if my itinerary changes, I'm like, ugh. But this was life. Like, this is life. Like, into the world. And obviously, I wasn't going to be like, no, my desires, like they go above, like, whatever is needed. Like, no. If my baby was not like, you know, healthy, and I wasn't healthy, I couldn't have a natural birth, I wasn't gonna fight against that. Like, just give me a medical justification. Anyway, so that's basically my experience. Adalia is really healthy and she came out perfect, and at the end of the day, I did have a natural birth, but there were just all these other things that I had to fight against and advocate for myself, and that my husband, you know, had to go through with me. So my labor was a total of 36 hours. So nothing uncommon, completely normal for natural birth. And it was completely tolerable. Like, it was towards the last like 3-4 hours that I was like, oh, I don't know, like, this is terrible. Probably the last hour that I was in Pitocin, that was when I was just like really doubting myself. But thankfully my husband was there and he encouraged me, and yeah, so that's pretty much it, you guys. I really hope this video encourages someone, and I really hope and pray that no one else has to go through this. And if you do, know that it is okay to ask questions and to get an answer. Have fear over being judged or anything like that. I support you. And if you need any emotional support or anything like that, I'm here for you. I'll be making a breastfeeding video because that was a big struggle for me. So I will be making that next. And other than that, thank you guys for watching and thank you for your support. Definitely stay tuned. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys soon, okay? Bye.